The rain matched Tiana Anderton's tears as she stood in the circular driveway, her 3-year-old daughters clinging to each side of her black funeral dress. "You have 1 hour." Miranda Anderton's voice cut through the September storm like glass. "Take only what you brought into this family," which, as I recall, was nothing. Hey, beautiful souls, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into Tiana's story, and trust me, you need to hear what happens next, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Are you Team Justice? Team Redemption? And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because this story is going to take you on a ride you won't forget. Now, let's get back to that driveway. Tiana's knees threatened to buckle as she watched her mother-in-law's silhouette retreat behind the towering oak doors of the Anderton estate. Sebastian had been in the ground for exactly 4 hours. For hours since they'd lowered her husband, her soulmate, her everything, into the earth. For hours since her world had ended. And now this. "Mommy, I'm cold." Maya's small voice barely registered over the drumming rain. Zara, always the quieter twin, simply pressed her face harder into Tiana's hip, her tiny body shaking. Whether from cold or fear, Tiana couldn't tell. Maybe both. "I know, baby. I know." Tiana's voice cracked as she smoothed down Maya's cornrows, the one she'd braided just yesterday for the funeral. Back when she still thought she had a home. Back when she still believed that Sebastian's family, her family, would help her through this nightmare. How spectacularly wrong she'd been. The front door opened again. This time, Victoria Anderton emerged, Sebastian's younger sister, wearing an expression that might have been pity on anyone else. On Victoria, it looked more like disgust, poorly masked. "Mother says you're still here." Victoria held a single umbrella over her own head, making no move to shield Tiana or the girls from the downpour. "Do you need security to escort you off the property? Or can you manage to leave with some dignity?" Dignity. The word tasted like poison. Tiana had spent 3 years trying to earn dignity in this family's eyes. 3 years of enduring Miranda's backhanded compliments about her articulate speech and presentable appearance. 3 years of Sunday dinners where Robert Anderton barely acknowledged her existence, discussing business and legacy as if she were part of the furniture. 3 years of Victoria's Instagram posts featuring family gatherings that somehow never included Tiana or her daughters in the frame. The only person who'd ever made her feel seen, valued, loved in this cold mansion was Sebastian. And Sebastian was gone. "I need to get some of the girls' things," Tiana managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "There's stuffed animals there. We'll have anything belonging to the Anderton grandchildren delivered to wherever you end up." Victoria's pause before those last 3 words was deliberate, cruel. "Mother's already setting up their room for visitation. Assuming you don't try to keep them from their family out of spite." The implication landed like a slap. They wanted to take her daughters. Or at least, they wanted her to know they could. "They're my children." The words came out fiercer than Tiana intended, and both twins looked up at her, startled. "They're Andertons." Miranda's voice carried from somewhere inside the house, though she didn't bother to show herself again. "Something you never truly were, dear. Sebastian may have been foolish enough to marry you, but blood is blood, and you are not our blood." The door closed with a finality that echoed in Tiana's chest. She stood there, rain-soaked and trembling, her designer funeral dress, the one Sebastian had bought her last Christmas, clinging to her skin. The twins were crying now, both of them, and Tiana realized with a horror that made her stomach lurch that she had nowhere to take them. Her phone was in her purse. Her purse was inside. She had $43 in her coat pocket, the coat she'd left in the hall closet. Her mother lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens, barely making rent. Her sister was deployed overseas. She had friends, sure, but none close enough to show up with 2 children and her car. At least they couldn't take her car. It was the one thing truly hers, the 12-year-old Honda Civic she'd driven before Sebastian, the one she'd kept because it felt like holding onto herself. "Come on, babies." Tiana lifted Zara onto her hip and took Maya's hand, walking toward the garage with as much dignity as she could scrape together. But when she reached the separate garage building, her heart stopped. The Civic was gone. In its place sat Sebastian's Tesla, The one he'd driven the morning he died. The one that had, according to the police report, malfunctioned on the highway, sending him into a concrete barrier at 70 miles per hour. And on the windshield, a note in Miranda's precise handwriting. The vehicle you arrived in has been donated to charity. This car belongs to the estate. Call a cab. Tiana's vision blurred, and for a moment, she thought she might actually faint. But Maya's hand in hers and Zara's weight on her hip kept her anchored, kept her standing. She pulled out her phone. At least she'd had that in her pocket, and saw 17 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. Before she could process that, a text came through from the same number. Mrs. Anderton, this is Elliot Mills from Hartley & Associates. It's urgent I speak with you regarding your late husband's estate. Please call immediately. Tiana stared at the message, rain dripping from her hair onto the screen. What could possibly be urgent? The Andertons had made it crystal clear. She was entitled to nothing. Hadn't they? The Motel 6, off Route 17, smelled like stale cigarettes and broken dreams. Tiana sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, watching her daughters sleep in the dim glow of the bathroom light. They'd cried themselves unconscious an hour ago, still wearing their funeral dresses because those are the only clothes they had. Everything else, the designer wardrobes, the toy chest full of French dolls, the custom bedding, belonged to the Anderton estate. At least, that's what Miranda's lawyer had claimed when he'd met them at the door with papers. Tiana's phone buzzed again. The sixth call from Elliot Mills in 3 hours. She'd ignored them all, too exhausted and too shattered to deal with whatever legal technicality needed addressing. Probably papers to sign away any claim to Sebastian's life insurance. Or maybe a bill for the funeral she hadn't even been consulted about. Her thumb hovered over the block button when a different name flashed across the screen. Jade Morrison. She answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you? Jade's voice was sharp with worry. I went by the house, and some security guard said you don't live there anymore. Tiana, what's going on? The dam broke. 3 years of holding herself together in front of the Andertons. 4 hours of standing stone-faced at Sebastian's funeral. 60 minutes of staying strong for her babies. It all shattered at the sound of her best friend's voice. They threw us out, Tiana whispered, choking on tears. Jade, they threw us out in the rain like we were nothing. Like Sebastian never existed. Like we never. Her voice cracked. I don't know what to do. Send me your location. Now. 20 minutes later, Jade burst through the motel room door, carrying Target bags filled with clothes, toiletries, and Happy Meals. She took one look at Tiana's face and the sleeping twins, and her expression shifted from concern to pure rage. I'm going to burn that house down, Jade said flatly. I'm serious. I'll drive there tonight, and don't. Tiana accepted the coffee Jade handed her, wrapping her hands around the cup like it was a lifeline. It won't change anything. Jade sat beside her, and for a moment, neither spoke. They'd been friends since freshman year at Columbia, 2 scholarship kids navigating a world of old money and older prejudices. Jade had been a maid of honor at Tiana's wedding, the one who'd warned her that marrying into the Anderton family would be complicated. Tiana had been too in love to listen. Tell me about him, Jade said softly. Tell me about Sebastian. The real Sebastian, not the Anderton heir. I need you to remember who he was. Tiana closed her eyes, and there he was, Sebastian at 25, sitting across from her in the Columbia Library at 2 in the morning, arguing about Toni Morrison's use of magical realism. Sebastian, who'd noticed her, because she was the only other person in their modern American literature seminar who actually did the readings. Sebastian, whose family had donated an entire wing to the university, but who never mentioned it, who wore thrift store sweaters and volunteered at the community center in Harlem. He was good, Tiana whispered. Everyone thinks I married money, but I didn't even know he had money. Not at first. He drove that beat-up Subaru, lived in a studio apartment in Washington Heights. We dated for 8 months before he told me about his family. She remembered that night vividly. Sebastian, nervous in a way she'd never seen him, explaining that he needed her to meet his parents, that there were things about his life she didn't know, that he came from wealth but wanted nothing to do with the family business, Anderton Pharmaceuticals, a company worth billions. I almost ran, Tiana admitted. I grew up in a two-bedroom in the Bronx with my mom working double shifts. What did I know about country clubs and charity galas? You knew about being brilliant, Jade countered. Top of our class, full scholarship, published in 3 literary journals before graduation. You weren't some gold digger, T. You were a catch. Try telling that to Miranda. Tiana laughed bitterly. From day one, she made it clear I wasn't good enough. Wrong background, wrong color, wrong everything. Robert just ignored me completely. And Victoria. She shook her head. Victoria was almost worse because she pretended to be nice. All those lunches where she'd introduce me as Sebastian's interesting wife, like I was some exotic pet. Why did Sebastian put up with it? It was the question Tiana had asked herself 1,000 times, especially in the dark months before he died when he'd become so distant, so consumed by something he wouldn't share. He thought he could change them. Or maybe he thought if he just gave them time. She trailed off. He tried to protect us. That's why we live in the guest house instead of the main mansion. He kept saying we'd move out completely, get our own place, but then his father had that stroke last year and Sebastian got pulled deeper into the company. He said he just needed to secure a few things, make sure the girls' futures were protected, and then we'd leave. What things? Tiana shook her head. I don't know. He wouldn't tell me. The last few months, he was so stressed, always on the phone with lawyers, meeting with people I'd never heard of. We fought about it. Her voice broke. Our last conversation was a fight. He said he was doing everything for us, and I said if he really cared about us, he'd choose us over his family. And then he left for work, and she couldn't finish. Didn't need to. Jade pulled her into a fierce hug. This isn't your fault. But it felt like her fault. Everything felt like her fault. Sebastian's death, the twins losing their father, the way she'd failed to protect them from the Andertons' cruelty. I need to find a job, Tiana said, pulling away and wiping her eyes. And an apartment. Schools for the girls. My mom can help with childcare, but I'll need to. You have a PhD in English literature, Jade interrupted. And you gave up your career to raise the twins because Sebastian said his family wanted a traditional setup. Don't think I forgot that. Tiana had forgotten. Or maybe she buried it under 3 years of trying to be the perfect Anderton wife. Before Maya and Zara, she'd been working on her dissertation, teaching undergraduate courses, building toward a tenure-track position. She'd put it all on hold because Miranda had made it very clear that Anderton women didn't work. They supported their husbands and raised exceptional children. That was another life, Tiana murmured. It was 3 years ago. You're 30 years old, T. You're not dead. Sebastian is, and I'm sorry. I loved him too, but you're still here. Those girls are still here. Jade gestured to the twins. And you're going to survive this. Tiana wanted to believe her. But sitting in a motel room with $43 to her name and 2 daughters, depending on her, survival felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. Her phone buzzed again. Elliot Mills, 7th call. This time, Jade grabbed the phone and answered before Tiana could stop her. This is Jade Morrison, friend of Mrs. Anderton. She's going through hell right now. So unless you're calling to tell her she's won the lottery, leave her alone. Jade's finger hovered over the end call button when she froze. What? No, wait, say that again. Her eyes went wide. Tiana. Jade's voice had gone strange, hollow with shock. You need to take this call. Why? What is it? Jade thrust the phone at her, hands trembling. He says Sebastian left you everything. The room tilted. Tiana gripped the phone, pressing it to her ear with a hand that didn't feel like her own. Mrs. Anderton? The voice on the other end was crisp, professional, urgent. My name is Elliot Mills, and I'm the executor of your late husband's personal estate. Not the family trust, his personal assets. I've been trying to reach you for days. We need to meet immediately. There are documents you need to see, things about your husband's death that don't add up, and he paused. Mrs. Anderton, do you know anything about offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands? Tiana's heart stopped. No, she whispered. Then we have a lot to discuss. Your husband didn't just leave you money, Mrs. Anderton. He left you a fortune, and from what I've uncovered, someone in his family knew about it. The line crackled with implication, with danger, with possibility. How much? The question scraped out of Tiana's throat. A pause that felt like eternity. $500 million. And Mrs. Anderton? I believe your husband was murdered to keep you from finding out. The law office of Hartley and Associates occupied the 42nd floor of a building in Midtown that probably cost more per square foot than Tiana's entire education. Jade had insisted on coming along, and now sat beside her in the sleek waiting room, bouncing her knee with nervous energy. This could be a scam, Jade whispered for the third time. People prey on grieving widows. $500 million? That's insane money. Sebastian never mentioned. Mrs. Anderton? A woman in a charcoal suit appeared. Mr. Mills will see you now. The conference room was all glass and chrome, with a view of Manhattan that made Tiana dizzy. But it wasn't the view that made her breath catch. It was the man standing at the window. Elliot Mills was nothing like she'd expected. Maybe 35, black, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that somehow made him look both powerful and approachable. When he turned, his eyes held an intensity that made her want to simultaneously run from the room and demand answers. Mrs. Anderton, thank you for coming. His handshake was firm, warm. And you are? Jade Morrison. I'm here to make sure this is legitimate and not some elaborate con. A ghost of a smile crossed Elliot's face. Smart. If I were in your position, I'd be skeptical too. He gestured to the chairs. Please sit. We have a lot to cover, and I'm afraid very little of it is going to be easy to hear. He opened a leather portfolio and slid a document across the table. It was dated 3 months before Sebastian's death. This is your husband's last will and testament. Not the one the Anderton family lawyer has. This is the real one, filed with my firm and witnessed by 3 independent parties. Elliot's voice was steady, professional, but his eyes held something else. Concern, maybe even anger. Sebastian came to me last April. He said he needed to protect his family, you and your daughters, from his family. His words exactly. Tiana's hands trembled as she read the document. It was dense with legal language, but certain phrases jumped out. To my beloved wife, Tiana Elizabeth Anderton, I leave the entirety of my personal fortune. Accounts established separate from the Anderton family trust. In the event of my death, regardless of circumstance. I don't understand, Tiana whispered. How did he have money separate from his family? He worked for Anderton Pharmaceuticals, but his salary went into a joint account that his mother managed. He said it was simpler that way, that she stopped, realization dawning. She was controlling everything. Not everything. Elliot pulled out another stack of papers. 6 years ago, before Sebastian met you, he developed something. A pharmaceutical compound for treating pediatric leukemia. He did it independently, on his own time, using his own resources. When it showed promise, he had a choice. Give it to Anderton Pharmaceuticals or license it to a competitor. He gave it to his father, Tiana said. She remembered Sebastian mentioning it once, dismissively, saying it was his contribution to the family legacy. He licensed it, Elliot corrected, to a European pharmaceutical company called Novamed. The licensing agreement was brilliant, structured so that his family never knew. The money went into offshore accounts, then into carefully hidden investments. Over 6 years, that one compound has generated $500 million, Jay breathed. $537 million as of last week. Elliot's expression darkened. Sebastian was methodical. Every penny documented, every transaction legal and traceable. He told me he wanted to wait until the twins were older, then leave Anderton Pharmaceuticals and take you somewhere his family couldn't control you. He was planning to tell you everything on your 4th anniversary. The date hit Tiana like a physical blow. Their anniversary would have been next month. Why didn't he tell me sooner? The question came out broken. He was afraid. Elliot's voice gentled, of what his family would do if they found out. Mrs. Anderton, I need you to understand something. The Anderton family is not just wealthy, they're powerful. Robert Anderton has connections in every level of government, law enforcement, judiciary. Sebastian believed that if his parents discovered what he'd done, they would find a way to claim the money, possibly using your daughters as leverage. The room felt airless. Tiana thought of Miranda's words at the funeral. We'll have anything belonging to the Anderton grandchildren delivered. The threat had been there all along. You said you think he was murdered. Tiana's voice was steadier than she felt. What? Elliot hesitated, then pulled out a police report. The official investigation concluded that Sebastian's Tesla malfunctioned, a software glitch that caused the brakes to fail and the accelerator to engage. Tesla denies any defect. I had an independent expert examine what's left of the vehicle. He slid a photograph across the table. Tiana flinched at the twisted metal, but forced herself to look. The braking system wasn't malfunctioning. It was overridden. Someone with access to the car's computer system remotely disabled the brakes and locked the accelerator. Elliot's jaw tightened. This wasn't an accident, Mrs. Anderton. This was premeditated murder. The room spun. Jade grabbed Tiana's hand, squeezing hard. Who? The word came out as barely a whisper. That's what we need to find out. And that's why I need you to be very careful. Elliot leaned forward. Sebastian sent me an email the night before he died. Just 3 words. They found out. I believe someone in his family discovered the money. And I believe they killed him to prevent him from taking it beyond their reach. Then why didn't they take it? Jay demanded. If they knew about it, why leave it for Tiana? Because they couldn't access it without her. Elliot pulled out yet another document. Sebastian structured everything brilliantly. The accounts are in a trust that can only be accessed by Tiana and, when they turn 18, the twins. If anything happened to Sebastian, the money was protected. Unless. He didn't finish, but he didn't need to. Unless something happens to me. Tiana completed, her blood running cold. If I die, who gets it? Elliot's silence was answer enough. The twins are minors, Jade said slowly, working it through. So they'd need a guardian. And the Andertons would fight for custody. And win, Elliot confirmed. Robert Anderton has the best lawyers in the country. Against a deceased mother with no close family, they'd have those girls in a month. Tiana shot to her feet, panic clawing at her throat. I left them with my mother. Oh God, I left them. They're safe, Elliot said quickly. I have security on them. Discreet, professional. Your mother thinks they're building security across the hall. He stood as well, moving around the desk with surprising grace. Mrs. Anderton, Tiana, I need you to breathe. I know this is overwhelming, but I promise you, I'm going to help you through this. Something in his voice made her look up. Their eyes met, and for a moment, she saw past the lawyer to the man underneath. Someone who'd cared about Sebastian. Someone who'd seen the same kindness in her husband that she had. Someone who was determined to get justice. Why are you doing this? She asked. You could walk away, let the Andertons fight it out in probate court. Why risk going up against them? Elliot's expression shifted, vulnerability flickering across his features before the professional mask returned. Because Sebastian was my friend. We went to boarding school together. He was the only person in that entire institution who didn't treat me like the scholarship black kid who didn't belong. When everyone else was joining their Fathers clubs and legacy fraternities, Sebastian was tutoring me in chemistry, and he paused, and reminding me that I was worth more than their condescension. He turned back to the window, hands in his pockets. He called me when he met you. Said he'd found someone who made him believe in love, who didn't care about his last name or his trust fund. Said he was going to build a life that mattered. His voice roughened. I owe it to him to make sure his family doesn't destroy that. I owe it to him to protect you. The intensity in those last words sent an unexpected warmth through Tiana's chest. She pushed it away. She'd buried her husband 4 days ago. She had no business noticing the way Elliot's jaw tightened with determination or how his eyes seemed to see straight through her defenses. So what do we do? She asked. Elliot turned back, and now he was all business. First, you sign these documents claiming your inheritance. Second, we move you and your daughter somewhere safe, somewhere the Andertons can't find you. Third, his expression hardened. Third, we prove who killed Sebastian and make sure they pay for it. And if the Andertons come after custody of the girls, then we fight them with every resource at our disposal, which, as of today, includes $500 million and the best legal team money can buy. Elliot's smile was sharp, dangerous. They threw you out thinking you were powerless. Let's show them exactly how wrong they were. Tiana looked at the documents spread across the table. Her husband's legacy, his final gift. His attempt to give her the freedom his family had spent 3 years trying to strip away. She thought of Miranda's cruel dismissal, of Victoria's thinly veiled contempt, of Robert's absolute indifference. She thought of standing in the rain with her daughters, homeless and humiliated. And she thought of Sebastian, who'd loved her enough to build a fortune in secret just to set her free. "Where do I sign?" she asked. Elliot's smile transformed his entire face. "Right here." As Tiana picked up the pen, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We know you met with a lawyer. Whatever he told you is a lie. Sebastian's money belongs to this family. Walk away now, or lose your daughters forever. This is your only warning." She showed Elliot the screen. His expression went deadly calm. "They're watching you," he said quietly, "which means we're running out of time. How do I fight people who can track my every move?" Tiana's voice shook despite her best efforts. Elliot met her eyes, and something fierce and protective blazed in his gaze. "You don't fight them alone. You fight them with me." And despite everything, the fear, the grief, the impossible odds, Tiana felt something she hadn't felt since Sebastian died. Hope. The safe house was a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, purchased under an LLC that couldn't be traced back to Tiana or Elliot. It had a small backyard where the twins could play, security cameras on every entrance, and neighbors who minded their own business. It also had only 2 bedrooms. "I'll take the couch," Elliot said, setting down the last box of supplies he'd arranged to have delivered: clothes, toys, everything the twins needed. "This is just temporary until we figure out who's watching you and how they're doing it. You're staying here." Tiana turned from the window where she'd been watching Maya and Zara explore their new room with cautious excitement. "You received a direct threat. I'm not leaving you unprotected." His tone left no room for argument. "Besides, we have work to do. If we're going to prove Sebastian was murdered, we need to move fast before evidence disappears." That had been 3 days ago. Now, Tiana sat at the kitchen table surrounded by printouts of Sebastian's financial records, phone logs, and calendar entries from the months before his death. Elliot sat across from her, reading glasses perched on his nose, looking less like a corporate lawyer and more like a detective building a case. "Here," he said, tapping a highlighted entry. Sebastian had lunch with his sister Victoria 2 days before he died. According to his calendar, it was at Le Bernardin, expensive, private. That's not a casual meal. Tiana studied the entry, trying to remember if Sebastian had mentioned it. He hadn't, but then he'd mentioned very little those last few weeks. "Victoria and Sebastian were close when they were younger," Tiana said slowly. "He told me she used to be different before their father groomed her to take over the charitable foundation. Maybe he confided in her about the money. Maybe," Elliot made a note, "or maybe she found out another way. I've been digging into the family finances. Did you know Anderton Pharmaceuticals is in trouble?" They made Tiana look up. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind that involves SEC investigations and potential fraud charges." Elliot pulled up a news article on his laptop. "It's been kept quiet, but 3 months ago, the FDA put a hold on their flagship drug after irregularities in clinical trial data. If that becomes public, the company's stock will tank. We're talking billions in losses." Sebastian never said anything. He might not have known, or he might have known and was trying to distance himself. Elliot leaned back, considering. $500 million would be a convenient solution to Robert Anderton's problems. If he found out Sebastian had that kind of money, he'd want it. Tiana finished the thought, her stomach turning. Would he kill his own son for it? "I've seen people killed for a lot less." Elliot's voice was grim. "But here's what doesn't fit. If Robert wanted the money, he'd need Sebastian alive to access it. The trust structure makes it nearly impossible to break after death. Unless they thought they could intimidate me into signing it over." Tiana thought of the text message, the thread about her daughters. Or unless they didn't know about the trust structure until after he was dead. Which brings us back to Victoria. Elliot pulled up another document. "Look at this. The day after Sebastian died, Victoria made a call to a private investigator named James Strider. 40-minute conversation. The name meant nothing to Tiana, but the timeline made her pulse quicken. Why would she need a PI the day after her brother died? Exactly. Elliot's eyes met hers, and again she felt that jolt of connection, of being truly seen. I think we need to talk to Victoria. She won't talk to me. None of them will. Then we make her want to talk to you. A slow smile crossed Elliot's face. How would you feel about attending the Anderton Foundation Gala this Saturday? Tiana nearly choked on her coffee. You're joking. They'd have security throw me out before I made it through the door. Not if you're there as my guest. Elliot pulled up an invitation on his phone. Hartley and Associates donated $50,000 to the foundation this year. I have a plus one. We go in together, very public, very visible. They can't make a scene without drawing attention. And what exactly are we hoping to accomplish besides humiliating me? We rattle them. Elliot leaned forward, intensity radiating off him. Right now, they think you're broken, hiding, powerless. We show them you're not. We watch how they react. People reveal things when they're off balance. It was risky, possibly stupid, but as Tiana considered it, she felt something sparking to life inside her, something that had been dormant since Sebastian's death. Anger. I'll need a dress, she said. Elliot's smile widened. Already handled. There's a stylist coming by tomorrow. You were pretty confident I'd say yes. I was hopeful you'd say yes. There's a difference. His expression softened. Tiana, I know this is hard. Walking back into that world, facing people who hurt you. But you're stronger than they know. Stronger than they want you to be. The way he said her name, gentle, but with absolute conviction, made her chest tighten. She looked away, focusing on the documents. Tell me about this James Strider. What kind of PI is he? Elliot's jaw tightened, and she knew she wasn't going to like the answer. The kind who specializes in making problems disappear. He's been connected to 3 suspicious deaths in the past decade. Nothing proven, everything circumstantial, but the pattern is there. Ice flooded Tiana's veins. You think Victoria hired him to? I don't know what I think yet, but I know we need to be very careful. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Tiana, if at any point this feels like too much, if you want to take the money and disappear, go somewhere they can't find you. I'll help you do that. Sebastian wanted you safe. That's what matters. His hand was warm, solid, and for just a moment, Tiana let herself absorb the comfort of human contact, of not being alone in this nightmare. Then Maya called from the other room. Mommy, Zara took my doll. And the moment broke. Tiana pulled away, standing. I should go, Elliot said softly. I'll keep working on this. As she mediated the twins' dispute, Tiana found herself hyper-aware of Elliot in the next room. The way he'd rolled up his sleeves, revealing strong forearms. The way he'd looked at her when he promised to protect her. The way her traitorous heart had skipped when their hands touched. She felt guilty for noticing. Sebastian had been gone less than 2 weeks. What kind of person was she to feel even a flicker of attraction to someone else? But late that night, after the twins were asleep, and she emerged from their room to find Elliot still at the table, surrounded by evidence and empty coffee cups, she couldn't quite suppress the warmth that spread through her chest. You should sleep, she said. He looked up, exhaustion evident in his eyes. So should you. I hear you pacing every night. I keep thinking about the accident, about whether he was scared, whether he knew. She trailed off, wrapping her arms around herself. Elliot stood, moving around the table. He didn't touch her, but he was close enough that she could feel his presence, solid and reassuring. Sebastian knew he was loved, he said quietly. Whatever happened in those final moments, he knew you and those girls were his whole world. That matters. Does it? When I couldn't protect him, when I didn't even know he was in danger, he didn't want you to know. He was trying to protect you. Elliot's voice was fierce. Don't take on guilt that isn't yours to carry. The only people responsible for Sebastian's death are the ones who killed him. Tiana looked up at him. This man who'd upended his life to help her, who looked at her like she was capable of anything. Why do you believe in me so much? She whispered. Something shifted in Elliot's expression, something vulnerable and honest. Because I see who you are, not the version the Andertons try to make you into, the real you. The woman who fought her way through Columbia on scholarship. The mother who would burn the world down to protect her daughters. The The widow who's standing here planning to walk into a room full of enemies with her head held high. He paused. Sebastian saw it too. It's why he loved you. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Tiana knew she should step back, create distance, but she couldn't make herself move. Then her phone shattered the moment with a shrill ring. Unknown number. Elliot's hand moved to the recording app on his own phone as Tiana answered on speaker. Mrs. Anderton. Robert Anderton's voice was cold, imperious. I understand you've been making inquiries into my son's estate. Let me save you some time. There's no estate. Sebastian's assets belong to the family trust. Any claims otherwise are fraudulent. That's not what the legal documents say, Mr. Anderton. Tiana's voice was steadier than she felt. A long pause. When Robert spoke again, there was an edge of threat. I've tolerated your presence in this family out of respect for my son's memory. But if you persist in this delusion, if you attempt to claim money that doesn't belong to you, I will take every legal measure available to remove my granddaughters from your clearly unstable care. Is that a threat? Elliot interjected, his voice hard. Who is this? Elliot Mills, Mrs. Anderton's attorney. And yes, Mr. Anderton, we're recording this call. So please, continue threatening to use false claims of instability to steal custody of your son's children. I'm sure a judge will find that very compelling. Another pause, this one vibrating with rage. You're making a mistake, Robert said, the words clipped. Both of you. The Anderton family does not lose. And we do not forget. The line went dead. Tiana realized she was shaking. Elliot's hand found hers, steadying her. We've got him rattled, he said. That's good. That's terrifying. It's both. Elliot's grip tightened. But Tiana? He just made a critical error. He called to threaten you, which means he doesn't know exactly what Sebastian left you or how to access it. He's fishing, and desperate people make mistakes. Tiana wanted to believe him, but as she looked at the evidence scattered across the table, the proof of conspiracy, murder, and greed, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The gala was in 3 days. 3 days to prepare to face the family that might have killed her husband. 3 days to figure out if she was strong enough to do what Sebastian had believed she could. 3 days to ignore the growing connection between her and the man who'd promised to stand beside her, no matter what came next. The dress was midnight blue, elegant without being ostentatious, and fit Tiana like it had been made for her, which, according to the stylist, it had been. Elliot had somehow obtained her measurements and commissioned it from a designer who owed him a favor. You look. Elliot stopped in the doorway of the bedroom, his words trailing off. Different, Tiana supplied, turning from the mirror. She let the stylist talk her into wearing her natural hair in a crown of curls, bold lipstick, chandelier earrings that caught the light. She looked like herself for the first time in 3 years. Not the muted, acceptable version the Andertons had preferred, but the woman she'd been before she'd learned to shrink herself to fit their narrow definitions. Magnificent, Elliot finished, his voice rougher than usual. He looked pretty magnificent himself in a tailored tuxedo that emphasized his broad shoulders and the quiet strength he carried. Their eyes met in the mirror, and the air shifted between them. That same charged energy that had been building for days, sparked by late-night strategy sessions and shared coffee cups and moments when their hands would brush while passing documents. Elliot, Tiana started, not sure what she was going to say. We should go, he interrupted, but his eyes said something different. The car's waiting. The Anderton Foundation Gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, because of course it was. Everything the Andertons did was designed to showcase their wealth, their influence, their unassailable position in New York's elite social hierarchy. Tiana's hands trembled as the car pulled up to the entrance. Hey, Elliot's hand covered hers. You don't have to do this. We can turn around right now. She thought about Maya and Zara, tucked safely in her mother's apartment with Elliot's security team watching over them. She thought about Sebastian, who'd spent years building a secret fortune just to free her from these people. She thought about standing in the rain while Miranda dismissed her like garbage. No, she said firmly. I'm done running from them. Elliot's smile was proud, fierce. Then let's give them something to see. He stepped out first, then offered his hand. The moment Tiana emerged from the car, camera flashes exploded. Apparently, word had gotten out that the scorned widow was making an appearance. She kept her head high, her hand in Elliot's, as they walked up the museum steps. Inside was a glittering spectacle of Manhattan's most powerful politicians, CEOs, celebrities, all dressed in designer gowns and tuxedos, all pretending they cared about the Anderton Foundation's supposed charitable mission. Tiana, she turned to find Victoria frozen mid-stride, champagne glass halfway to her lips. Sebastian's sister looked genuinely shocked, her carefully maintained composure cracking. Victoria. Tiana's voice was cool, controlled. What are you? I didn't think. Victoria's eyes darted around the room, clearly calculating. Does Mother know you're here? I wasn't aware I needed Miranda's permission to attend a public event. Tiana felt Elliot's presence at her shoulder, solid and supportive. I'm here as Mr. Mills's guest. Victoria's gaze shifted to Elliot, and something flashed across her face. Recognition? Fear? We need to talk, Victoria said abruptly, her voice low. Not here. The sculpture garden in 10 minutes. Come alone. Before Tiana could respond, Victoria disappeared into the crowd. That was interesting, Elliot murmured. Think it's a trap? Definitely. Tiana watched Victoria's retreating form. But I think she's scared. Did you see her face? I did. Which is why I'm not letting you go alone. She said, I don't care what she said. These people might have killed your husband. You're not meeting any of them without backup. His voice brooked no argument. 10 minutes later, they made their way to the sculpture garden. It was empty except for Victoria, who stood beneath a marble statue, looking smaller and more vulnerable than Tiana had ever seen her. I said alone. Victoria snapped when she saw Elliot. Mr. Mills is my attorney. Anything you say to me, you can say in front of him. Tiana crossed her arms. What do you want, Victoria? For a long moment, Victoria just stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear to God, Tiana, I didn't know what they were planning. Every nerve in Tiana's body went on high alert. Who was planning? Mother and father. Victoria's voice broke. The day Sebastian died, that lunch at Le Bernardin, he told me everything. About the money, about the offshore accounts, about wanting to leave the family. He said he was going to tell you on your anniversary, and then you were all going to disappear. Start over somewhere we couldn't control you. And you told your parents, Elliot said, his voice hard. No. Victoria's head snapped up. I told him I was happy for him, that he deserved to be free of this family, that you, she looked at Tiana, were the best thing that ever happened to him. I told him to run and never look back. Then how did your parents find out? Tiana demanded. Victoria's hand shook as she pulled out her phone. Because I'm an idiot who doesn't understand technology. I thought I was texting my therapist about the conversation. I needed to process it. I was upset and She pulled up a text thread, showing it to them. I sent it to the family group chat instead. Tiana read the message, her blood running cold. Sebastian just told me he has over $500 million hidden offshore. He's planning to leave the company and take Tiana and the girls. He's telling her everything next month. I'm happy for him, but devastated we're losing him. Don't know how to process this. The timestamp, 2 days before Sebastian died. Oh my God, Tiana breathed. The next morning, Father called an emergency family meeting. I wasn't invited. Victoria's voice was hollow. And then that afternoon, Sebastian's car, she couldn't finish. Why didn't you go to the police? Elliot demanded. With what proof? A text message and a convenient accident. Victoria laughed bitterly. My father has 3 senators and the police commissioner on speed dial. Besides, I didn't know anything. I just suspected, and I was terrified. You threw me out, Tiana said, anger rising. You stood there and let your mother throw me and my daughters into the rain. I know. Victoria's tears spilled over. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking you to be careful. Because Father called in James Strider, the private investigator. I heard them talking. Strider's the one who, she swallowed hard, who arranged Sebastian's accident. And Father told him there was a loose end that needed tying up. Meaning me, Tiana said. Victoria nodded miserably. Father thinks if you're gone, He can claim the twins' inheritance as their guardian. He doesn't know about the trust structure. He thinks it's simpler than it is. And Mother, her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Mother said some things about how tragic it would be if you died from grief. An overdose, maybe a suicide. Something that wouldn't raise questions. Tiana's legs went weak. Elliot's arm came around her waist, steadying her. When did they have this conversation? Elliot's voice was deadly calm. 3 days ago. Victoria met Tiana's eyes. Right after Father called you. When he realized you had a lawyer and weren't going to just disappear quietly. That's when I knew I had to warn you. Sebastian loved you. He died trying to protect you. I can't. I won't. Let them kill you too. Why should we believe you? Tiana asked, even as part of her already did. There was something raw and honest in Victoria's grief that couldn't be faked. Because I love my brother. Because I've spent 3 years watching Mother and Father poison everything they touch. And I'm tired of being complicit. Victoria pulled an envelope from her clutch. This is everything I could find. Emails between Father and Strider, financial records showing payments, notes about the plan to get custody of the twins. It's not enough for a murder conviction, but it's a start. Elliot took the envelope, scanning the contents quickly. His expression grew darker with each page. This is good, he said, but we need more. We need definitive proof that Strider tampered with Sebastian's car. And we need a direct connection to your father ordering the hit. I can get it. Victoria straightened, and Tiana saw a flash of the woman Sebastian had described. The sister who used to be brave before their family crushed her spirit. Father trusts me. Or at least, he doesn't think I'm smart enough to be a threat. I can access his office, his computer. Absolutely not, Elliot interrupted. If they suspect you're helping us, you become a target too. I'm already a target. Victoria's voice rose, then dropped when she remembered where they were. Don't you understand? I'm the one who accidentally told them about the money. If they find out I warned Tiana, if any of this goes wrong, I know what they're capable of now. A sound behind them made all three whip around. Miranda Anderton stood in the garden entrance, her face a mask of cold fury. Victoria, she said, her voice like ice. Come here. Now. Mother, Now. Victoria's face went pale. She looked at Tiana, then at her mother, torn. Don't do this, Tiana said softly. Victoria, you don't have to go back to them. She's my daughter, Miranda said. And you are nothing. A gold-digging opportunist who trapped my son and is now trying to poison his sister against us. Security. 2 men in suits appeared, moving toward Tiana and Elliot. This is a private event, Miranda continued, and you are not invited. Please escort them out. If they resist, call the police. We're leaving, Elliot said quickly, his hand finding Tiana's. But Mrs. Anderton, you should know that your daughter just gave us enough evidence to start a criminal investigation into your husband. The SEC is very interested in Anderton Pharmaceuticals' financial irregularities. I wonder what else they'll find when they start looking. Miranda's expression didn't change, but Tiana saw her hand tighten on her clutch. You have no idea who you're threatening, Mr. Mills. And you have no idea who you're underestimating. Elliot's smile was sharp. Tiana isn't alone anymore. She isn't powerless. And if anything happens to her, every piece of evidence we have goes directly to the FBI, the SEC, and the New York Times. He guided Tiana toward the exit, but she stopped, turning back to look at Miranda. Sebastian loved me, she said clearly. That's what you could never stand. Not that I was black, not that I was poor, that your son chose me over you. That I made him happy in a way this family never could. And you killed him for it. Miranda's mask finally cracked, rage flooding her features. Get out. As they hurried through the museum, Tiana's heart hammered against her ribs. Behind them, she could hear Miranda's raised voice, Victoria's tearful responses. We need to get Victoria somewhere safe, Tiana said as they reached the car. Already on it. Elliot was typing furiously on his phone. I have someone watching her. If she tries to leave, we'll intercept. The car pulled away from the museum. Tiana looked back to see Victoria standing on the steps, her mother's hand clamped around her arm, her face the picture of misery. She helped us, Tiana said. Even after everything, she tried to do the right thing. I know. Elliot's jaw was tight, which is why we're going to make sure the people who killed Sebastian and threatened you pay for what they've done. His phone rang. He answered, his expression shifting from tense to shocked. When? Are you sure? He listened. Then his eyes met Tiana's. We'll be right there. What happened? That was my investigator. He's been monitoring the Anderton estate's security feeds. Elliot's voice was grim. Tiana, Sebastian's car, the one from the accident that was supposed to be in a police impound, was just delivered to the Anderton garage. They're about to destroy it. The final piece of evidence. The proof they needed. And it was about to disappear. How fast can we get there? Tiana asked. Elliot looked at her like she was crazy. We're not going there. It's too dangerous. That car is the only thing that proves they killed Sebastian. If they destroy it, I'll send the police. I'll send the investigator. But I'm not taking you anywhere near that family tonight. Elliot, Tiana grabbed his hand. That's my husband's car. His blood is still in it. I'm not letting them erase him like he never mattered. I'm not letting them win. For a long moment, Elliot just looked at her. Then he leaned forward to the driver. Change of plans. The Anderton estate. And step on it. As the car sped through Manhattan toward the one place Tiana had sworn never to return, she felt Elliot's hand squeeze hers. Whatever happens, he said quietly, I've got you. And looking into his eyes, seeing the determination and something deeper, something that made her heart skip despite everything, Tiana believed him. The Anderton estate loomed against the night sky like a monument to cruelty. Tiana's stomach twisted as the car pulled up to the gates, the same gates she'd been thrown out of 2 weeks ago. The garage is around back, Elliot said, pointing to where light spilled from an open bay door. We need to document the car before they destroy it. Photos, video, anything we can get. Sir, I really don't think the driver started. Stay with the car. Engine running. If anything goes wrong, call 911 and get out of here. Elliot was already moving, his phone out and recording. Tiana followed, her heels sinking into the manicured lawn as they circled toward the garage. Through the open door, she could see Sebastian's Tesla, or what was left of it. The twisted metal gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights. And standing beside it, watching two men in coveralls prepare an industrial car crusher, was Robert Anderton. Stop! Elliot's voice cut through the night. Robert turned, his expression shifting from surprise to cold calculation in an instant. Mr. Mills, and my daughter-in-law, how unexpected. He gestured casually to the men. Continue. That car is evidence in an ongoing investigation, Elliot said, still recording. If you destroy it, you're obstructing justice. What investigation? Robert's smile was reptilian. There's no investigation. The police ruled it an accident. I'm simply disposing of a painful reminder of my son's death. Surely you can understand that, Tiana. Unless you'd prefer to keep it as some sort of morbid memorial. The crusher's hydraulic system hummed to life. We know what you did, Tiana said, her voice shaking but clear. We know you had Sebastian killed. We know about James Strider. Something flickered in Robert's eyes. Genuine surprise, quickly masked. Those are serious accusations. I assume you have proof. Victoria told us everything. Now Robert's expression hardened. My daughter is emotionally fragile. She's been under enormous stress since her brother's death. I'm afraid she's been saying all sorts of confused things. In fact, he pulled out his phone. She's being evaluated by medical professionals as we speak. A psychiatric hold, for her own protection. 48 hours minimum. Horror flooded Tiana's chest. You had her committed? I had my clearly unstable daughter hospitalized after she made threats of self-harm. Robert's voice was smooth, practiced. Several witnesses at the gala heard her erratic behavior. It's all very well documented. You son of a bitch, Elliot breathed. Careful, Mr. Mills. Slander is actionable. Robert nodded to the men at the crusher. The car, please. No. Tiana lunged forward, but someone grabbed her from behind. James Strider stepped out of the shadows, his grip on Tiana's arm like iron. He was younger than she'd expected, clean-cut, completely unremarkable, which somehow made him more terrifying. Let her go. Elliot moved toward them, but Strider produced a gun with his free hand, casual as breathing. I'd stay right there if I were you, counselor. Everything seemed to freeze. The gun. The crusher moving toward Sebastian's car. Robert's cold smile. Here's what's going to happen, Robert said conversationally. You're going to delete that video, Mr. Mills. You're going to hand over whatever documents Victoria gave you. And then you're going to convince Tiana to sign over Sebastian's trust to the family, where it belongs. And if we don't, Elliot's voice was steady, but Tiana could see the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her. Then Mr. Strider will do what he does best. Robert's tone never changed, starting with Tiana. And if that's not sufficient motivation, well, twins are such a vulnerable age, aren't they? Anything could happen. Accidents occur every day. White-hot rage cut through Tiana's fear. You're threatening my children? I'm protecting my grandchildren from a mother who's clearly unstable, who broke into private property, made wild accusations against her deceased husband's grieving family, and tragically took her own life out of guilt and grief. Robert gestured to Strider. The gun will be in her hand. Very tragic. Mr. Mills will corroborate the suicide, naturally, unless he wants to join her. The crusher closed around Sebastian's car with a screech of metal. No. Tiana struggled against Strider's grip, watching the evidence, the proof of Sebastian's murder, being destroyed. Sebastian was your son. How can you? Sebastian was weak. Robert cut her off, his mask finally falling away to reveal the monster underneath. He was always weak, wasting his brilliant mind on idealistic nonsense, giving away his discoveries instead of leveraging them for family profit. And then he married you and became even worse. You made him think he could leave the family, that he could take $500 million, money that came from Anderton Resources, Anderton Connections, and just walk away. He earned that money independently. There is no independently in this family. Robert's voice rose for the first time. Everything we have, everything we are, is built on the Anderton name. Sebastian didn't get to opt out. Neither do my granddaughters. And neither do you. The car was compacting now, metal screaming as it folded in on itself. Tiana felt tears streaming down her face, watching the last piece of Sebastian disappear. Delete the video, Robert said to Elliot. Now. Tiana watched Elliot's face, saw the calculation happening behind his eyes. He was trying to find an angle, a way out, but they both knew the truth. Robert Anderton held all the cards. Elliot, she said softly. Do it. Tiana. Do it. Please. She met his eyes, trying to communicate everything she couldn't say. The twins need me alive. We'll find another way. Elliot's jaw clenched, but he opened his phone and deleted the video. The sound of it felt like deleting hope itself. The documents Victoria gave you, Robert prompted. Elliot handed over the envelope. Robert glanced through it, then tossed it into a metal barrel where a small fire was already burning. Tiana watched the evidence curl and blacken. Excellent. Now the trust. There's a problem with your plan, Elliot interrupted, and there was something in his voice that made Robert pause. The trust can't be dissolved by Tiana alone. It requires multiple trustees, including me. So unless you're planning to kill us both and forge documents, which would be much harder to pass off as a murder-suicide, you're stuck. Robert studied him. Then we'll adjust the plan. You'll both sign the documents. You'll both be very much alive to explain how Tiana, in her grief, decided the family should raise the twins with their rightful inheritance. And then you'll both go far away and never come back. And if we refuse, then your bodies won't be found for a very long time, and the twins will become wards of the state until I petition for custody, which I will win. Robert checked his watch. I'm bored with this conversation. Strider, take them to the basement. I'll have the documents drawn up in the morning. In the meantime, they can contemplate the wisdom of cooperation. Strider gestured with the gun. Move. As they were herded toward the mansion, Tiana's mind raced desperately. Elliot's security team was watching the twins, but they didn't know Tiana and Elliot were in danger. The driver might call the police, but by the time they arrived, Robert would have a perfectly innocent explanation. He owned half the police force anyway. They were going to die here. Or worse, they were going to be forced to sign away everything Sebastian had died protecting, and then spend the rest of their lives knowing the Andertons had won. The basement was cold, windowless, clearly used for storage. Strider shoved them inside and locked the door. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I'm sorry," Elliot finally said, his voice raw. "I should have never brought you here. I should have." "Stop." Tiana turned to him in the darkness. "You've done everything you could, more than I had any right to ask. I promised to protect you." His hand found hers in the dark. "I'm failing." "You're not failing. We're just—" She couldn't finish. Couldn't say the word losing out loud. Elliot pulled her close, and she let herself collapse against his chest, finally allowing the terror and grief to overwhelm her. He held her as she sobbed. For Sebastian, for her daughters, for the impossible situation they were trapped in. "Tiana," Elliot whispered into her hair, "I need you to know something. In case we don't, in case this doesn't." She pulled back, looking up at him. Even in the dim light from under the door, she could see the intensity in his eyes. "I'm in love with you," he said. "I know the timing is impossible. I know you're grieving, that I'm your lawyer, that this is complicated in every possible way. But if we die tonight, I need you to know that meeting you, helping you, falling for you, it's been the most important thing I've ever done." Tiana's breath caught. She should pull away, should tell him it was too soon, too complicated, that she couldn't think about this now. Instead, she kissed him. It was desperate, grief-stricken, and tasted like tears. But it was also real, the first real thing she'd felt since Sebastian died. Not a betrayal of her husband's memory, but a reminder that she was still alive, still capable of feeling, still worth fighting for. When they broke apart, they were both shaking. "We're going to survive this," Tiana said fiercely. "Do you hear me? We're going to get out of here, get my daughters, and destroy the people who killed Sebastian. I don't care what it takes." "Ow!" Elliot's voice was gentle, but hopeless. "They destroyed the evidence. They have Victoria locked up. They have us trapped." Tiana thought of her daughters' faces, of Sebastian's smile, of the life she'd been building before the Andertons crushed it. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I'm not giving up. Sebastian didn't build that fortune just for his family to steal it. He built it so his daughters would be free. And I will die before I let them take that away." Above them, footsteps creaked across the floor. Their time was running out. Tiana paced the basement, her mind working furiously. There had to be something they were missing, some angle Robert hadn't considered. "The driver," she said suddenly. "Your driver saw us come here. If we don't come out, Robert will say we left through the front gate while he was in his study." Elliot leaned against the wall, his tactical mind clearly working the same problem. "He's thought of everything." "Not everything." "Tiana, stop pacing. He doesn't know about the recording. I deleted it. You saw me. You deleted a video. But your phone automatically backs up to the cloud, doesn't it?" She moved closer, hope flickering. "Please tell me you have cloud backup." Elliot's eyes widened. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Edo." And it's set to upload every 5 minutes. The video should be. His face broke into a grin. "It's there. The whole conversation, including Robert admitting to having Sebastian killed. Can you send it somewhere? Before they take your phone?" "Already done. It's going to 3 different people. My partner at the firm, a reporter I trust, and..." He hesitated. "And the FBI agent who's been investigating Anderton Pharmaceuticals." Tiana stared at him. "There's an FBI investigation?" There wasn't. But there will be once they see this video. Elliot's expression was grim with satisfaction. "I've been building a file on the company's fraud for weeks. I just didn't have enough for charges. This, Robert threatening us, admitting to murder, this changes everything." For the first time in hours, Tiana felt something other than despair. How long before they respond? Depends on who checks their messages first. Could be minutes, could be hours. We might not have hours. Tiana glanced at the locked door. Robert said morning, but the door flew open. Victoria stood there, her hair disheveled, makeup smeared, still wearing her gala dress. "We have maybe 3 minutes before they realize I left the hospital." "Come on. How did you—" Elliot started. faked a panic attack, slipped out during the shift change, stole a nurse's car. Victoria grabbed Tiana's hand, pulling her toward the stairs. I'll feel guilty about it later. Right now, you need to run. They raced up the basement stairs and through the kitchen. The house was dark, silent. Where's your father? Tiana whispered. His study, on the phone with his lawyer. Strider's outside, watching the driveway. Victoria led them to a side door. There's a service gate near the garden. You can get out there, but you'll have to go through the woods to reach the road. Come with us, Tiana said. I can't. If I disappear, they'll know I helped you escape. But if I'm here when they realize you're gone. Victoria's smile was bitter. I'll play the confused mental patient. Say you must have escaped while I was sedated. Victoria. Sebastian loved you, Victoria interrupted, tears streaming down her face. You made him happy. That's all I ever wanted for him. So please go. Save yourself and those beautiful girls. And when you take down our father, because I know you will, make it hurt. Tiana pulled her into a fierce hug. Thank you. Go. They ran into the night, Elliot's hand gripping Tiana's as they plunged into the wooded area of the estate. Behind them, shouts erupted. They'd been discovered. This way. Elliot pulled her left, away from the sounds of pursuit. They crashed through underbrush, Tiana's heels long since abandoned, her dress torn and muddy. Branches whipped at her face. Her lungs burned. But she kept running, driven by the thought of Maya and Zara, of Sebastian's sacrifice, of everything she still had to fight for. Lights flashed ahead, the road. A car sat idling at the service gate. For one terrifying moment, Tiana thought it was Strider. Then the window rolled down, revealing Jade's furious face. Get in the damn car. They dove into the back seat as Jade hit the gas. The car fishtailed, then rocketed forward. How did you, Tiana gasped. Elliot's partner called me. Said you were in trouble. I grabbed the twins and your mom. They're at a hotel under fake names with security. Jade's eyes met Tiana's in the rearview mirror. And before you ask, yes, I broke about 15 traffic laws getting here, and no, I don't care. Elliot's phone rang. He answered, listened, then his expression transformed. That was the FBI. They're executing a warrant on Robert Anderton right now. They want us to come in and give statements. He looked at Tiana. It's over. We got him. Tiana collapsed against the seat, adrenaline finally crashing. Elliot's arm came around her, pulling her close. You did it, he murmured. Sebastian would be so proud. We did it, she corrected, looking up at him. I couldn't have survived this without you. Their eyes met, and that spark, the one that had been building through crisis and danger, ignited into something deeper, something that felt like the beginning of healing. So, Jade said from the front seat, glancing at them in the mirror with a knowing smile. Anyone want to tell me what's happening between you two? Or should I just keep driving while you make hard eyes at each other? Despite everything, Tiana laughed. It felt foreign after so much grief, but also necessary, like breathing after being underwater. Jade Morrison, meet Elliot Mills, the man who saved my life. The woman who saved herself, Elliot corrected softly. I just had the honor of standing beside her. Oh, you're smooth, Jade said approvingly. I like him, T. He can stay. As they drove toward the city, towards safety and justice and a future that suddenly seemed possible again, Tiana allowed herself to hope. The darkest hour had passed. Now came the reckoning. The FBI field office was chaos. Tiana sat in a conference room, giving her statement to Agent Sarateri while Elliot sat beside her, occasionally clarifying legal details. Through the glass wall, she could see other agents moving with purpose, phones ringing, people rushing past with documents. Mrs. Anderton, Agent Terry said, her voice gentle but firm. I need you to walk me through the garage confrontation one more time. Specifically, what Robert Anderton said about your husband's death. Tiana repeated it for the third time, her voice steadier now. He said Sebastian was weak, that he didn't get to opt out of the family. He admitted to having the car destroyed to eliminate evidence. And James Strider was there with a weapon? Yes, he threatened both of us. Said he would make it look like murder-suicide. Agent Terry made notes, then looked up. We arrested Strider an hour ago. He's already trying to make a deal. Elliot leaned forward. What kind of deal? The kind where he gives us everything on Robert Anderton in exchange for a reduced sentence. Agent Terry's smile was sharp. Turns out Mr. Strider keeps very detailed records of his work. Emails, recordings, financial transactions, including the specific instructions Robert gave him about tampering with Sebastian Anderton's vehicle. Tiana's breath caught. He has proof. He has a recording of the conversation where Robert ordered the hit. Strider was smart, or paranoid, enough to record his clients in case he needed leverage later. Agent Terry pulled up a file on her laptop. I can't play it for you yet. It's evidence. But Mrs. Anderton, your husband's death is officially being investigated as homicide. We're bringing charges against Robert Anderton for conspiracy to commit murder. The room seemed to tilt. Elliot's hand found Tiana's under the table, steadying her. What about Miranda? Tiana asked. She knew. She was planning. We're building the case. Right now, we have her on conspiracy, witness tampering regarding Victoria's forced hospitalization, and potentially accessory to murder. Agent Terry's expression softened. I know this doesn't bring your husband back, but we're going to make sure the people responsible face justice. A knock on the door interrupted them. Another agent poked his head in. Terry, you need to see this. The news just broke. Agent Terry excused herself. Through the glass wall, Tiana watched as multiple people gathered around a television. What's happening? She asked Elliot. He was already pulling up his phone, his eyes widening. The story leaked. Look, the New York Times homepage showed a breaking news banner. Pharmaceutical heir Robert Anderton arrested in son's murder-for-hire plot. Below it, a secondary headline. FBI investigates $500 million inheritance. Fraud at Anderton Pharmaceuticals. Tiana stared at the screen as Elliot scrolled through the article. It had everything. Sebastian's secret fortune, the offshore accounts, Robert's admission on the video, even details about the company's FDA troubles. How'd they get all this so fast? Tiana breathed. Because I gave it to them. The voice came from the doorway. Victoria stood there, looking exhausted but determined. She had a bandage on her wrist from the hospital floor, Tiana realized, and wore borrowed clothes that didn't quite fit. Victoria. Agent Terry moved toward her. You were supposed to stay at the safe house. I needed to do this. Victoria looked at Tiana. I called the Times reporter myself. Gave him everything. All the family secrets father thought were buried. The fraud, the bribes, the way he's manipulated people for decades. Her voice grew stronger. Sebastian tried to escape by running. I'm escaping by burning it all down. That was incredibly dangerous, Elliot said. Good. Victoria's smile was fierce. I want father to know it was me. I want him to know that his daughter, the one he thought was too weak and stupid to matter, destroyed him. Agent Terry sighed. You're going to need protective custody. I know, but it's worth it. Victoria turned to Tiana. Is it true? About the inheritance? Sebastian really left you everything. Tiana nodded. Good. That's exactly what he would have wanted. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Use it well. Build the life he dreamed of for you and the girls. And maybe, she hesitated. Maybe someday, when this is all over, I could meet my nieces properly? Be the Aunt Sebastian would have wanted me to be. Before Tiana could answer, Agent Terry's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then turned to them with an expression of grim satisfaction. Robert Anderton just turned himself in. His lawyer convinced him that running would make things worse. She paused, and Miranda Anderton is in the lobby. She's asking to speak with you, Mrs. Anderton. Everything in Tiana recoiled. No, you don't have to, Elliot said immediately. But Victoria grabbed Tiana's arm. Yes, you do. You need to look her in the eye and let her see that she lost. That all her cruelty, all her manipulation, it meant nothing. You survived. You won. Tiana looked at Elliot, who nodded slowly. I'll be right beside you. They met Miranda in a different conference room. Sebastian's mother sat rigid in her chair, her designer suit somehow still perfect despite the circumstances. But her eyes were wild, desperate. You've destroyed us, Miranda said without preamble. My husband is facing life in prison. Our company's stock has collapsed. The family name is ruined. Are you satisfied? No, Tiana said quietly. Because Sebastian is still dead. He was weak. He was good. Tiana's voice rose. He was kind and brilliant, and he saw value in people beyond their bank accounts. That's not weakness. That's strength. Something you'll never understand. Miranda's mask cracked, revealing the rage beneath. You think you've won? You think having money changes what you are? You'll always be the girl from the Bronx who got lucky. And those girls, my granddaughters, they're Andertons. That blood will always. Those girls are mine, Tiana interrupted, steel in her voice. And they will be raised to value compassion over cruelty, love over legacy. They will know their father was a hero who protected them from people like you. And they will never, ever step foot in your world again. You can't keep them from me. I have rights. You have nothing. Elliot placed a document on the table. This is a restraining order. You're prohibited from contacting Tiana or the twins. Given the current criminal charges and your threats regarding custody, no judge in the country would grant you visitation. Miranda stared at the document like it was a snake. Victoria did this. My own daughter betrayed me. Your daughter saved herself from becoming like you, Tiana said. Be grateful for that, at least. She stood, done with this woman, done with the whole poisonous family. But at the door, she turned back. Sebastian used to tell me about his childhood. How you never attended his school plays because they weren't important enough. How you sent him to boarding school at 8 because you didn't want children disrupting your social calendar. How the only time you paid attention to him was when he could benefit the family image. Tiana's voice was steady, almost pitying. You had a son who would have loved you if you'd let him. Instead, you raised him to be an asset. And when he chose love over legacy, you killed him for it. You didn't just lose, Miranda. You were never in the game that actually mattered. Miranda's face twisted with hatred. Get out. Gladly. I hope you and Robert enjoy prison. I hear it's very different from the country club. In the hallway, Tiana's legs nearly gave out. Elliot caught her, holding her steady. That was incredible, he said. That was terrifying. Tiana let herself lean into him, but also necessary. Mrs. Anderton, Agent Terry approached. I have good news. We've cleared you to leave. Given the threats against you, we're assigning protection until the trial, but you're free to go home. Home! Tiana thought of the safe house, temporary and sterile. Then she thought of her daughters, waiting for her with Jade and her mother. Can we go to them? She asked Elliot. To the twins? Absolutely. The hotel was modest but clean, and when Tiana walked through the door, Maya and Zara launched themselves at her with such force she nearly fell over. Mommy, Maya cried. Grandma said you were helping catch bad people. I was, baby. Tiana held them both, breathing in their little girl smell, feeling their solid warmth. But I'm here now, and we're safe. Forever, Zara asked in her quiet voice. Forever, Tiana promised. Her mother stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Baby girl, when Jade told me what was happening, Imokie, Mama. Tiana hugged her mother with one arm, still holding the twins. We're all okay. Jade appeared with coffee and what looked like half a bakery. I stress-bought pastries. We have enough carbs to survive the apocalypse. Despite everything, Tiana laughed. Her daughters, her mother, her best friend, and she glanced at Elliot, who was crouching down to introduce himself to the twins, possibly something more. The nightmare wasn't over. There'd be trials, testimony, media scrutiny. But standing there surrounded by people who loved her, Tiana felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Not just hope, peace. 6 months later, the brownstone in Park Slope had a red door that Maya had insisted on, a small garden that Zara tended with surprising dedication, and absolutely no connection to the Anderton family. It was perfect. Tiana stood in the kitchen, watching through the window as her daughters played in the autumn leaves, their laughter carrying on the crisp October air. She'd enrolled them in a progressive private school where they were thriving, making friends, being kids instead of Anderton heirs. Coffee. Elliot appeared behind her, sliding his arms around her waist. She leaned back into him, still marveling at how natural this felt. How right. You're supposed to be getting ready for work. I am ready, and my first meeting isn't until 10. He pressed a kiss to her neck. Besides, I wanted to talk to you about something. Tiana turned in his arms. 6 months together, and her heart still skipped when he looked at her like that, like she was the most important thing in his world. The verdict came in, he said quietly. Robert was convicted on all counts. Murder for hire, conspiracy, fraud. He's looking at life without parole. Tiana absorbed the news, waiting for the surge of satisfaction or grief. Instead, she just felt tired. And Miranda? 20 years. She took a plea deal, testified against Robert. Elliot's hand came up to cup her face. It's over, Tiana. Really over. What about Victoria? Immunity in exchange for her testimony. She's starting a nonprofit, helping women escape abusive family situations. His smile was warm. She called this morning, asked if she could come by this weekend to see the twins. They've been slowly rebuilding that relationship, cautious but genuine. Victoria was different now, softer, braver, free from her parents' poisonous influence. She'd never be a close friend, but she was becoming the Aunt Sebastian would have wanted her to be. Tell her yes, Tiana said. The girls keep asking about Aunt Vicky. A timer beeped. Tiana pulled away to check the oven, where a batch of cookies was browning perfectly. She'd taken up baking, something she'd never had time for in her old life, something that made the house smell like home. So, Elliot said, leaning against the counter with studied casualness, I've been thinking about the foundation. The Sebastian Anderton Memorial Foundation for Pediatric Cancer Research. Tiana had established it 3 months ago, seeding it with $50 million from the inheritance. The rest was invested, secured for the twins' future and for the life she was building. She'd also quietly donated $5 million to Columbia University for scholarships for underprivileged students. Sebastian would have loved that. What about it? Tiana asked, arranging cookies on a cooling rack. It needs a director, someone brilliant, compassionate, who understands both the academic and personal side of what we're trying to do. Elliot paused. I know someone perfect. She has a PhD in English literature, but she's been thinking about going back to school for nonprofit management. Tiana looked up at him, surprised. You think I should run it? I think you could do anything you set your mind to. But yes, I think you'd be extraordinary at it. He moved closer. You've spent 6 months healing, being there for the girls, which was necessary and right. But I also know you, Tiana. You need purpose beyond just managing money. He was right. She'd been feeling it lately, the restlessness, the need to do something meaningful with the second chance Sebastian had given her. I'll think about it, she said softly. Good. Elliot pulled a small box from his pocket. Now think about this. Tiana's breath caught. The box was definitely ring-sized. I know it's only been 6 months, Elliot said, his voice suddenly nervous in a way she rarely heard. I know you're still healing from losing Sebastian. I know the girls need stability, and we shouldn't rush things. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant diamond ring. But I also know that I love you, that I love Maya and Zara, that I want to build a life with all of you, if you'll have me. Tears spilled down Tiana's cheeks. Elliot, you don't have to answer now, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know that I'm here, that I'm not going anywhere, that when you're ready, if you're ready, I'll be waiting. Tiana thought about Sebastian, about the love they'd shared. She'd never stopped missing him, never stopped being grateful for the gift he'd given her. But she also knew that he wouldn't want her to stop living. He'd want her to be happy, to love again, to build something beautiful from the ashes of grief. Ask me, she whispered. Elliot's eyes widened. Tiana, ask me properly. He dropped to one knee, right there in their kitchen, with cookies cooling and autumn light streaming through the windows and the sound of the twins playing in the background. Tiana Elizabeth Anderton, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? Yes, she said, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, absolutely yes. He slid the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like coffee and promise and new beginnings. The back door crashed open. Mommy, we found Maya stopped staring. Why is Mr. Elliot kissing you? Because I asked your mommy to marry me, Elliot said, crouching down to the twins' level. And she said yes. which means I'm hoping to become part of this family, if that's okay with you too. Zara and Maya looked at each other, having one of their silent twin conversations. Then Zara smiled, her rare, beautiful smile. Okay, she said simply. Does this mean you'll live here all the time? Maya asked. Not just sleep on the couch sometimes. If that's okay with you, Elliot confirmed. Maya considered this seriously. Can we get a dog? Elliot looked at Tiana, who burst out laughing. We'll discuss the dog. That's a yes, Maya shouted, racing back outside to tell Zara the news. Later that evening, after the twins were asleep and Elliot had gone home to pack some things, Tiana stood in her bedroom, looking at the photo on her nightstand. Sebastian smiled at her from the frame, holding newborn Maya and Zara, his expression radiating pure joy. Thank you, she whispered, for loving me, for protecting us, for giving us this chance. She could almost hear his response, warm and certain. Be happy, T. That's all I ever wanted. And for the first time since his death, Tiana believed she could be. Not the same happiness she'd had before. That life was gone, and she'd never stop grieving its loss. But a different happiness. One built on resilience and truth and love that had been tested by fire. She touched the ring on her finger, then the photo, bridging past and future. We're going to be okay, she said to Sebastian's image. All of us. I promise. The moon rose over Brooklyn, silvering the autumn leaves. Somewhere in the house, the old radiator clanked to life. Down the street, a dog barked. Normal sounds. Beautiful sounds. The sound of a life reclaimed. Tiana smiled, turned off the light, and walked toward tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining Tiana on this journey. Her story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we have the strength to rise, to fight, and to build something beautiful from the ashes. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling me what part resonated with you most. I read every single one, and your words mean the world to me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now.